everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Linda Knowlton, your FAMP president, and I am here today with Michael Brenning, president of the Wholesale Lending and AmeriSave Mortgage Corporation. We are thrilled to have Michael with us today to give us kind of an update, thoughts where we are and where we're going in our industry. And we're also very happy to announce that AmeriSave is, again, a high roller sponsor for our 2022 convention, and we sincerely appreciate the support that AmeriSave continues to give to FAMP. So I am going to do a little bit of introduction, Michael, and then you kind of fill in the blanks when you start. But Michael's been in the business and been an executive leader for a number of years. He has been with RMI Mortgage as the retail market director, Quicken Loans, the vice president of capital markets, chief production officer with Deep Haven, and obviously currently he is the president of the wholesale lending division of AmeriSave. So we are going to turn it over to Michael, but first a couple housekeeping items. If you have any questions, put them in the chat box. We will answer them as we go and or answer them at the end. We like some interaction going back and forth. And we will be providing a copy of the PowerPoint presentation as well as the audio presentation here, the video presentation. So Michael, again, thank you so much for taking your time out of your very busy schedule and very busy day. And I'm just going to turn it over to you.
I'm super appreciative of the frame up and the introduction, humbled and flattered to be a part of FAMP and to be, in a spot like this, to have the opportunity to be in front of our joint members. It's been fun for me getting to know FAMP a little bit deep over the last 3 or 4 years, and especially the last 18 or so months I've been here. It's been a nice process getting to know you, Linda, and getting to know the team. And it helps to have Bobby Cox, and Tanya Mills on our team, kind of be really deeply associated with the FAMP Association in terms of, being involved for, 10, 15, 20 plus years that they've been involved. So I'm happy, humbled, and really glad to be here. Courtney, if you want to pull up the presentation, we'll dive in. Today's goal is to make this as interactive as possible. So to the extent you all want to interrupt me, please do. Some of this content's going to be has some depth and some complexity to it, and I want to make sure that we give you an opportunity to understand what I'm trying to get across to you in terms of messaging. But really, the broad point of today is let's catch up on 2022. It's a vastly different year than 21 and 20. We all know that, but let's talk more technically about what those differences are. And then let's talk about some things, if I'm in your shoes, I'd be doing as an originator, as a broker owner, as a retail mortgage banker, whatever spot I hold in mortgage land in Florida or wherever I am around the country. I think it's time we need to adjust course a little bit and modify our strategies. And so I want to give you a lot of things to think about as we go through the presentation today, the discussion today, and then leave you with the leave behind. So Courtney, if you can jump me ahead, we're going to talk about the market and kind of where we are right now. All right, so here's some artwork. What is this artwork telling us? Well, it's telling us we don't want to buy this piece of art, but this is the market we live in right now. So the graph on the left is a depiction of the what's called 30-year UMBS or MBS 3 coupon, which is essentially where note rates of like 3 3/4 and 3.5 would slot down into a 3% mortgage-backed security. Why is this graph on the page? Why is it important? I'm showing you the last 6 months. And so if you look kind of to the left in the grayish blue chart there, you'll see prices as high over to the right as like 104.40, 104.38. And then you'll follow all the way down to kind of the bottom right in the grayish blue chart, and you'll see pricing around 98 and 98.73, right? So what does that mean? That mortgage-backed securities pricing has gotten about 550 basis points worse on the 3% MBS over the last 6 months. We've felt that. We've seen that on rate sheets. We've watched rates climb from 2 3/4 in the late stages of last year, all the way up to the high 3s right now, right? And so that's really what the graph on the left is depicting, and the graph on the right is the juxtaposition of that, right? Whereas pricing drops, yields are rising. So you'll see that the treasury yield has gone from around 1 1/8 6 months ago, all the way up to just north of 2 1/8 here yesterday. This was taken yesterday afternoon about 3:30. So these are not the things we want to see as originators, as owners of companies, or whatever spot we hold in the mortgage world. This is what dampens dramatically the outlook for origination volume this year. But there's nothing we can get out of lamenting this. I just wanted to kind of cement us all on how far the market's moved and what that's going to lead to. What that means is the market has essentially priced in 2 or 3 or 4 of the next and upcoming Federal Reserve Open Market Committee meetings, where we all anticipate we're going to see quarter, half a point, 3/4 of a point moves here over the next 3 or 4 meetings. I say, they've priced them in. That's the 550 basis point move or the 1% change in the 10-year. That said, that doesn't mean that the market's not going to react the day of or for the few days around each Federal Open Market Committee meeting, the FOMC meetings that are coming up here. What do I mean by that? Well, just because the market's priced it in doesn't mean that when they see the notes coming out of the Fed and some of the leanings of what direction the Fed's going to lean on future rate increases, there's going to be some short-term volatility, meaning the market's probably going to sell off. Bond pricing is going to drop even further. Interest rates in the mortgage world are going to go up even faster. I think that'll be temporary, though. What happens as you head into each FOMC meeting is people get nervous. Bond traders get nervous. They start managing their bond positions, and they want to take risk off the table. So you'll see people start to sell heading into an FOMC meeting, and that has a downward effect or a worsening effect on mortgage-backed securities pricing. Then after a couple of days of kind of absorbing the notes that came out of the FOMC, they kind of calm down and they go, okay, I've got billions I need to invest here. Let me put them back in the market. And that's where you see some of these moves that we've had happening here over the last 3 or 4 weeks, where the market can move. Heck, we've seen moves as almost a point in one day in price, right? I think the other day it was an 89 basis point correction in mortgage-backed securities pricing the wrong direction. So what does all this mean, Brenning? Why are you telling us all this other than showing us some pretty art on a screen? Well, it tells me that I'd expect, if I'm in your shoes, that 30-year fixed rate mortgages on the conventional and FHA and VA side of things are going to go north of 4.5% throughout the course of this year, right? I'm not going to try and pinpoint when that happens, but I would bet all of your money and most of my money. How fun is that? That comment right there. Most of that money on 30-year fixed rate mortgages being north of 4.5. So what does that mean? Why is that important? Well, we've got to make arrangements and know very clearly that a super significant majority of rate and term refis, VA IRRRLs, FHA streamlines are all gone, right? Unless somebody's been sleeping under a rock for the last 5 or 6 years, they're just not nowhere near the money, right? So we've got to pivot, right? We've all talked about pivoting to purchase, but there's some other pivots we need to make this year, and I'm going to try and help you with those in future slides. So we will see, I promise you, you will see short-term pops like the Ukraine effect. We saw a couple of weeks ago when everything kicked off in Ukraine in the negative way that it has, we saw the world kind of migrate. It's called the flight to treasuries. It's a textbook term from college, right? You hear this, you see the Wall Street Journal, quote this, the flight to treasury, the flight to safety. And when Ukraine happened, bond investors around the world said, oh my gosh, I don't want to own Russian bonds. I don't want to own Ukrainian bonds. I don't want to own Japanese bonds or German bonds or European bonds. I want to own US treasuries because it's the safest place people perceive they can park their money. So we saw a short-term pop when Ukraine first kicked off. And after about a week and a half or 2 of Ukraine and the war with Russia, that became secondary news, and inflation came back to the table as the primary news. And the creep, the crawl, the rise of higher rates, started again. So here's a statement that I like to make. I picked up this quote from one of our regional directors out west, Erin Dibble, who manages Northern California for us, and she leaves it on her voicemail. She says, if you like it, lock it. Well, my point there is rates are going to be all over the place. If you have a good conversation with a client, you've quoted them on an LE, a rate, a transaction structure that they like, lock it. Don't wait. Don't try and time the market. We're not, none of us in the world are smart enough. There's nobody in the world, not even the Federal Reserve chairperson, has the ability to time and bet on the market day in and day out. It's too volatile. There's too many external factors. So if you like it, please lock it, because the market's all over the place right now. And you could think you have a 25 or 30 loan pipeline that you set at 3 3/4 or 4%, and then you could wake up the next morning if you didn't lock it and find that prevailing rates are 4 1/4 and 4 3/8 now, and your whole pipeline just walks out the door because there's no net tangible benefit for the customer, or they're not interested anymore. So let's all practice and preach the thought of, if you like it, let's lock it. Whether it's with us at AWMS or whomever else you're working with, let's stop betting on the market or trying to time the market out. We can bet on one thing assuredly, and that is that rates are heading up, and they're going to be volatile as they head up. Courtney, I'm ready to jump to the next slide, if you don't mind. So we can pause there. Let's actually go back. I want to at least, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have had you jump ahead. Let's give people an opportunity to ask any questions in the chat box that they might have. So Linda can frame those up for me, or we can stay here. But any questions on kind of where things are heading? Linda,
There
you
is
seen
nothing
anything?
yet in the chat
Okay.
box, but
Well, we'll move forward then. So, oh, Brenning, you're just full of great news. You got a dumpster fire on your screen. 2022, the year the mortgage world ended. So I'm not trying to be, cute here or anything like that. This is an article that I wrote, and I will give this over to Linda and Courtney as something you can grab as a takeaway from this webinar as well. It's completely unrelated to what I'm talking about today, but it is the subject line of the article that I wrote. And there are a few things in here that I'll be talking about today that pertain to you managing your future. But before we get to how you run your business more effectively this year, let's talk about the rest of what's going on. We've got the market down, at least at forecast, down 35 to 40%. That's the MBA and Fannie and Freddie saying we expect what was a $4.3 trillion a year in 2021 to end up being a $2.5 to $2.6 trillion a year in 2022. That's not a bad year. 2.5, 2.6 billion or trillion, sorry, is probably still right up there in the top 10 to 12 mortgage years we've ever had. But the challenge with that is our industry and our expectations have built support for $4.1 to $3 trillion over the last few years. There's too much capacity in our industry. There's too many originators, there's too many wholesale lenders, there's too many underwriters, there's too many processors, there's too many everything, right? And so this year is going to be a tough year as the market shrinks and contracts 35 to 40%. You're going to see mergers, acquisitions, closures, and layoffs, and you're already seeing those. That's the unfortunate nature of our business. It is a yin and yang business. It is a wavy ride. For those of us who've been doing this for 25 plus years, we've seen at least 8 cycles, 9 cycles, maybe even 10. So it's not going to be a fun year from that perspective. We're going to see a lot of pressure, not just in our industry, but in every industry on wages, right? We know that a lot of people, it's called the Great Resignation. People are leaving for different jobs, what they perceive to be better jobs, higher paying jobs, and that's causing disruption in our world in mortgage land. You'll have a borrower you've qualified, and then the next thing you know, 5 days before closing, they call you and say, "Hey, Linda, Courtney, FAMP broker, FAMP originator, FYI, is it a problem if I switch jobs the other day?" You're like, yeah, it's a big deal. Wage pressure, the Great Resignation. We're going to deal with that all year long. Rent is continuing to skyrocket. Inflation, as we know, is at the highest level since the 80s. You've got the Ukraine effect, which is, day to day, hour to hour. Some hours it's helping the bond market. Some days and weeks it's hurting the bond market, depending on how that's going. I think it's reasonable to predict, and we're already seeing a large wave of retail mortgage loan officers convert over to the broker side of things. And I'm not saying one model is better than the other, because I know we've got a diverse pool here in FAMP. I'm just saying we're seeing that conversion. And I think there's obvious reasons for that there's more choice available to brokers. There's also good things going on at retail lenders as well. So it's dependent on what you see value in as an originator. There's no doubt there's already and will be continuing pain for consumer direct broker shops and mortgage bankers like Rocket and Loan Depot and others that have built primary businesses around consumer direct. And then last but not least, conversions are already starting to suffer, right? If you used to bat 85 or 90% when you took a nap and locked it, you're going to bat a lower percentage because borrowers are going to be looking for the next best deal and going to continue to shop you, probably at a deeper or harder look than they ever have before. So, all right, Brenning, enough with the bad news, but I wanted to give you kind of our outlook, my outlook on everything that's going on, all the things we're facing right now and going to continue to face throughout 22. But now we pivot into positive territory. We can start talking about how do you deal with this? How do you pivot your business? So Court, let's jump ahead. Okay. I don't care what role you play within your organization. And I think FAMP jades a lot towards originators, but we know we've got processors and broker owners and retail loan officers and all that in the organization. So I want you to think of yourself as a CEO, whether you're actually an owner or not. I want you to think of yourself as a processor CEO or an LO CEO, or if you're a broker owner, you are a CEO. And we're going to go through tactically 5 key sections today, setting annual origination goals. And I'm going to move really fast through that one and spend more time in a lot of our time in the product review section, the lender review section, and then a miscellaneous section that I've created here on the fly right before this, because I want to give you really tactical, tangible things you can be doing this year to manage your business like you're a CEO. Regardless of the role you play, I want you to start thinking of yourself as a CEO and think of yourself as running your own business. And I think over my career, over my 28 years, I've seen loan officers and processors and underwriters who manage their job like it's a business that they're running be quite a bit more successful than those that ride the direction of the market. And it all comes down to planning and executing against that plan and having goals and having a business plan for yourself, whatever role you play. Again, doesn't matter if you're a producer, a processor, an underwriter, a broker owner, you have to have plans and goals and a way to get there. And then the honesty to track yourself against those. So let's jump ahead and get into the weeds on origination goals on the next slide. Some of this stuff is like, duh, Brenning. Yeah, thanks a lot for that. But I'm gonna tell you why I think this is important. You have to set a goal at the top of the level. What did I originate in 2021, or do I care about that? What is my goal for 2022? And then I want you to break it down to chunks, right? If you don't break down a goal and set plans to achieve that goal, you're not going to achieve that goal. Without a goal, you don't have a business. That's the quote I put at the bottom of this. I don't know where that came from. It could be my quote. It could be probably in 700 different business books. But without a goal, you don't have any chance at real success. And you're certainly not operating like a CEO and running your business if you don't have goals. So I think you need to set yourself an annual goal, the top of the pyramid, if you will, and then a monthly goal, and then break that down by where is that going to come from? Is that coming from my referral partner, channels? I'm calling these channels. It might be 7 real estate agents you work with if you're an LO. Do I buy leads? Do I want to buy leads? Should I look at that? Do I have a previous client database that I'm doing an effective job of marketing to? I want you to set goals, top by year, then month, then by channel. And then I want you to break it down and go, here's why it's important to think about purchase goals. Break that down. How much first-time homebuyer business am I going to get? Because that's a very different client base than if I'm working with a bunch of second home investment property buyers, right? Think about it. A first-time homebuyer, probably relatively young, lower on the income scale generally, just establishing credit for the first time, might be an FHA client, might be a veteran that just came out of the military, but a first-time homebuyer client is a very different feeling looking client than a habitual property investor. You see where I'm kind of getting at, that they're two wildly different types of borrowers and revenue sources and origination sources. And if you don't break your overall goals down and say, I'd like to have 25% of my volume come from first-time home buyers and 25% of my volume goal come from investment property buyers, then you're nowhere, because you have different strategies. When we get to the marketing section, you're going to have a marketing strategy to attract first-time home buyers. Am I working with referral partners that work with first-time home buyers? Yes or no? And then if I don't, and I want to do 25% first-time home buyer, I should probably be finding real estate agents that are working in geographic areas where there's a lot of first-time home buyers. Am I attracting, if I've got a 25% goal for investment property, am I attracting property investors to me in my marketing, in my digital and social media, in my Facebook ads, in my LinkedIn posts, on my website? We're going to get into all this stuff in the next couple of slides, talking about how do you attract some different, types of borrowers into your portfolio. And then I've certainly, I talked earlier, I think rate and term, IRRRLs and Streamline are pretty much dead. So it's cash out refi year. Let's set a goal for cash out refi, because again, you got to be intentional. Okay, where am I going to get most of my cash out refi business from? Well, it's going to either be from new advertising across the digital web, or probably equally, if not more prevalently and more as an opportunity for you, you're going to have to look back into your previous client database, look at the last transaction or two you did for the client, and look at the structure of their credit in terms of what it was at the last time you originated a loan, and go, yeah, I might have gotten you a 3% or a 2 3/4 30-year fixed rate mortgage, but man, we saw that you had 5 credit cards, 2 car loans, and and a college student loan you were still paying on. That's a client to reapproach and say, hey, the overall payment stream that you're paying out your front door right now as a borrower, as a consumer, as a household is $8,000 a month. Yes, I'm going to take your mortgage up by $1,000 a month, but I'm going to save you $3,000 or $4,000 a month by structuring all that debt into a cash out. So you got to be thinking that way. But you got to be thinking about setting goals all the way down from the top at year, all the way through month, all the way to where is this business going to come from. That's why origination goals are important. Yeah, if you just throw a number on a board and it says 50 million, 40 million, for us, $20 billion here at AWMS this year is our target. If we just left it at that level, that's not a goal. That's just a number sitting on a board. You got to get real tactical and into the weeds and break it down. Next slide, Court. We're going to go deep on marketing and advertising plan. You need to be thinking about going back to those different goals you just set by volume. Where's this stuff going to come from? It's not just going to fall out of the trees like it did in 2020 and the first half of 2021. That's gone. You're going to have to look at your referral partner sources. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about real estate agents, but CPAs, wealth management advisors, trust advisors, divorce attorneys. Here's the last two, banks and credit unions. Banks and credit unions don't have, generally the smaller and medium-sized ones don't have fully fledged, well-rounded mortgage departments. I've had a lot of success earlier in my career as a loan officer working with banks and credit unions on a referral basis where they would not be able to do a loan because the bank didn't offer secondary market loans. All they could offer were like 5-1 arms and 30-15 balloons and different things that their customer base didn't want. They would refer those over to me. So if you don't have a couple of banks and credit unions that are local to you referring you business, you got to be out there trying to, do some boondoggles, do some lunches, do some breakfast over coffee, find your way into some banks and credit unions that are small and don't have a lot going on mortgage wise, and kind of be their outlet for secondary market mortgage loans, because customers, generally don't want a 5-1 arm, a 3-1 arm, a 7-1 arm, or a 30-15 balloon. So a couple of maybe new lead sources in there. Maybe you need to think about buying leads this year and experimenting there, not with any huge budget, but if you've been a traditional referral source, originator, maybe you try something new this year. I think we've got to think outside the box right now and not just do what we've done in years past, because I don't think that's going to lead to success. Search engine optimization, SEO. I wish I could do like a show of hands, but we're all blacked out. That's okay. I'm going to guess that half the population on this call knows what SEO means and the other half don't. And I'm not going to say I'm judging either way. I didn't really know too much about SEO 4 or 5 years ago, and now I've kind of become a scientist and a geek around it. On your website, all the things that point Google and Yahoo and all these other search engines to you, there's both paid, where you can pay Google and Yahoo to point internet searchers towards you if they search a relevant topic that you have on your website. That's paid search engine optimization, where you're paying the large data aggregators to send opportunities to your website. And then there's organic, and organic is something you can control without spending $1. That is looking at your website and doing 3 things. Number 1, having a lot of keywords on there that tie to a bunch of different things mortgage related, wholesale mortgage, all the products that you can offer, 30-year fixed rate mortgages, kind of define all the terms you can do. Put some calculators as number 2, some different links to calculators on your website. And then number 3, and probably, number 3 in the order of those 3, is putting a few bucks into, and I say a few, you could put 50 or $100 a month into some paid SEO. What that's doing is Google's going to say, hey, this guy or gal's giving me 50, 100, $200 to work with this week or this month. And they're going to funnel direct internet traffic to you when somebody searches for mortgage originator in Fort Myers. With a couple bucks that you put into the search engine optimization, they're going to start pointing those searches towards you instead of Rocket, instead of Loan Depot, instead of other places like that. So that's paid SEO. On the back of that, you can do things with Google called Google Ads. So we do this. It's kind of cute. Hopefully none of my competitors are on this call, but if they are, they do it to me too. Let's just say we all went out and searched, Rocket Pro TPO right now. Not picking on them. I spent 8 years there. I have a lot of respect for lots of things that they do. And so I'll talk, okay about them. I'm not a hater on anybody in our industry, but if you Googled Rocket Pro TPO right now, you might see that AmeriSave Wholesale Mortgage Solutions shows up above Rocket Pro TPO with a paid ad. That's Google Ads. You can do that as well. And it's a relatively affordable spend for us, and that's at a macro level. For you at a smaller level in your local market, if somebody searched, a consumer's online searching great mortgage loan officers or great originators in Fort Myers or great originators in Miami or great originators in Jacksonville, you can work with Google to have your result be the top result for a pretty affordable number. That's probably something you haven't thought of before. We spend, $4,000 or $5,000 a month doing that. Pretty small part of our budget. You can do that on a relative basis for probably $400 or $500 a month, and I bet it will. The ROI, the return there, will be quite a nice one. Retargeting. We actually see fun commercials around this. Who's ever gone online and searched for something like, shoes or a new gun holster or a vacation in, Bora Bora, and you did your search and you got what you were looking for, but then every time you go into your inbox in like Outlook or Gmail or the different tools that you use for email, there's all these banner ads on the right-hand side. And guess what? They're about shoes and gun holsters and trips to Bora Bora. That stuff follows you around. You left cookies on the internet, and now those cookies are sold data-wise to retargeters, data marketers, and you could spend a few bucks with a data marketer to help you retarget people that ever searched for anything mortgage related in your state, in your city, in your county, in your neighborhood. And that's a really affordable investment you could do from a retargeting standpoint. And then every time those people are in their inbox or on different websites that they're searching, there's going to be an advertisement for you. It's not going to be about shoes. It's not going to be about gun holsters or a trip to Bora Bora. It's going to be about your mortgage company or you as an originator or your business. So retargeting. And that ties into banner ads and placement on consumer sites. You could spend a few bucks marketing wise to place some banner ads on different consumer facing sites. Let's think HGTV. Maybe that's a bit too expensive, but there are hundreds, if not thousands of other more localized and regionalized consumer sites where people spend time looking for home remodeling tips and where should I buy, who's the best plumber in this neighborhood and who's the best electrician in that city. You can work with Google and different companies like that to do banner ads and placements on different consumer sites so that you have literally a banner ad streaming across some of these different websites that consumers are spending time on. And then if they click on that banner ad, they pop to your website. But to do any of this and all of this, you have to have origination goals. You have to have an advertising marketing plan that contemplates all of this, and you got to set a budget. You got to put some money aside. You can't just take what you earn each month and plow it into your bills and plow it into your next golf trip or plow it into whatever your college fund, whatever we're plowing our money into. You got to set some money aside as a business, as an LO CEO or processor, underwriter, or broker owner CEO. Just set some money aside for a marketing and advertising budget, and then be smart about how you invest it. And then create a calendar. When am I doing all this? When am I going to do Google ads? When am I going to do some retargeting? When am I going to invest in organic SEO and spend the time to update my website with keywords and links to calculators? When am I going to call a web hosting company and pay them some bucks to do some paid SEO to funnel people to me? When am I going to go out and hit the road and mix and mingle with other referral sources over breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, golf, whatever, a glass of wine? You got to put that stuff on a calendar. Again, this comes down to if you don't plan this stuff out and put it on a calendar, you're not going to execute it. Again, it's like putting something on a board. Doesn't do you any good. You got to put it onto a detailed calendar and say, oh, shoot, it's Wednesday, 3/16, and at 3 o'clock today, I have lunch with Linda Knowlton, who happens to be an originator over at a bank and credit union or banker or credit union. I'm going to work with Linda, try and get her to refer her secondary market clients with me. And then at 5 o'clock tonight, I've got a glass of wine with Courtney. And Courtney's my liaison with Google. And I'm going to talk about Google ads with her. You literally have to break it down to the tactical, daily, hourly stuff that you want to accomplish again with your advertising and marketing plan. Let's jump ahead to the next juicy section here. It's building. This is a quick one. I think we fall asleep at the wheel sometimes, technology wise. I've used Calyx Point for 15 years. It's okay. There's probably better, but I'm just so familiar with it. Like, you can't do that in 2022. You've got to look at your LOS and go, is it helping me? Is it hurting me? Is it up to date? If there's more industry change coming, am I using an LOS that proved the last time there was a big change like the IRLA? Did it go well, or was it a complete cluster, right? We can all, you know what I'm talking about. If you've been in certain LOS systems, the last couple of big technology changes for our industry did not go well. So is it helping you? Is it hurting you? Are you agnostic to it? Is it affordable? Is there a cheaper option out there? You need to be looking at your loan origination software and asking yourself those questions. Don't just say, oh, it's 2022. I've done this for 20 years. I'm just going to do it again. Why would you do that? You don't do that in your personal life. Why would you do that in your business life? If you're using a customer relationship management software like HubSpot or Salesforce, and there's so many other ones out there, Are you truly using it, or are you just spending money on it and not really hooking it into your loan origination system? Are you doing drip campaigns? Are you having reminders pop up to remind you about birthdays or 6-month mortgage anniversaries or 3-month mortgage anniversaries? Are you doing that deep dive review? Because here's what I'll tell you. Here's a statistic I want you all to hear and hear it loud and clear. This is your customer relationship management tool linking in with your LOS. We did a study with Hamline University, which is up here in Minnesota. It's a well-regarded university up here where we're headquartered at AWMS. And we partnered with them about 6 months ago to do a study with 100,000 recent borrowers across the country. So this is kind of all over the 50 state span we're all in. And they surveyed 100,000 people. I'd say 99,980 of them were done via an online survey via SurveyMonkey, and then 20 of them were done in person, just so we could video them, just to kind of see the reactions of people's faces. And here's what I want to tell you, and this is not meant to insult you at all. This is raw data straight from this study. It tells us when we're going to focus on something at the end of this. Guess what percentage of people remembered the name of their loan officer or the name of the mortgage company that loan officer worked for 3 months? This was all 3 months after the origination. It wasn't 50%. It wasn't 70%. It wasn't even 10%, folks. It was 7.8%. 7.8% of respondents, and 0 out of the 20 remembered who their loan officer was 3 months after the origination of the loan. What does that tell us? Well, it tells me that we didn't do a good job of staying in front of them post-transaction, right? That's what it tells me. It tells me that my CRM, and your CRM could be Excel, your CRM could be Outlook. We don't have to spend millions of dollars or thousands of dollars on some, but you have to stay in front of your previous clients. We're telling you data-wise, we're not. So our entire industry is not doing a good job staying in front of borrowers. Because if we did do a good job of staying in front of borrowers, past clients, with birthday cards and check-ins and Facebook posts and liking their stuff online and searching for them and have searches set up for whenever one of your former clients is posting anything on Facebook or LinkedIn and liking that, you want to keep your name in front of them, right? 7.8% of people after 3 months remembered us, and 92.2% of people didn't. That's not good. It's not what we're here to do. So that's the CRM review side of this. Are you using your CRM effectively? Do you have one? Should you have one? But I will say this: you absolutely have to be following up with your former clients, and you have to do a lot better job in 22 than you ever have before. Because I can promise you, in talking with different folks around our industry across different states, that is one of the top things that originators are planning on getting better at in 2022. So let's not be left behind there. Kind of already talked about website review, especially from an SEO standpoint. Do you have the right keywords on your website? Are you providing value to the borrower? Can the borrower apply online on your website? Is there a application widget? Can they price a loan online on your website? Do you have your own splash page? If you're an originator and you're not the broker owner or the retail originator mortgage banker owner, do you have your own splash page? So if it's awms.com, do you have awms.com/Mike Brenning as your own website with the ability to do an application, with the ability to price a loan? If you don't, there's lots of widgets we can introduce you to, companies that provide very affordable pricing calculators that tie to your various wholesale lenders, pricing sets, along with loan application widgets for point of sale execution for your borrowers. That's when I talk about website review. Let's jump to the next stuff. We're building on value here. We're getting to more high value stuff. Okay, products. Boy, over 2020 and 2021. I'm not going to call them easy, because that'd be insulting all of us. They were grinded out years. We were busier than we all ever were, right? It was hard to stay up with everything that we had coming our way. We're not in that market anymore, but we were probably so busy in 20 and 21. We had a pretty limited product set that we originated, right? Conventional was falling into our lap with rate and term refis in 20 and 21. High bell, if you're in a high bell market and you had, a lender that had good pricing, that was jumping into your boat. FHA and VA, same thing. IRRRLs and streamlines were kind of jumping into the boat. Everybody's got that, right? You have to have conventional high bell, FHA, VA, and jumbo. But now we've got to pivot. Now we've got to be looking for new types of customers we haven't served ever before, or not for a few years, or not for a decade. And it's time to start really focusing in on, do I have the right products? So do I have a great lender or four that have non-QM products and DSCR products? Because those cater to borrowers you probably weren't spending a lot of time with in 20, and 21. But man and woman, to hit your numbers this year, to hit those goals we set a couple slides ago, you're going to have new client types coming in. The good news I can tell you is non-QM and DSCR clients generally come with higher average loan amounts. So you might do less of them than you do formally conventional high bal, but they're generally higher loan amounts, where there's a lot of self-employed borrowers that have done well for themselves and they're buying higher loan balance types of homes, or there's property investors using DSCR loans to build their investment property portfolio. So you got to be looking at adding non-QM and DSCR products. I think you got to be looking at adding bridge loans, fix and flip loans, and new construction loans to your portfolio as well. Well, Brenning, where do I find these things? There's lots of great companies out there. You can ping me. You can find me online. Ping me via email, mbrenning@awms.com. Ping me on LinkedIn with a question. I'll be glad to introduce you to some great companies that are in the bridge loan, fix and flip, and new construction business that would be glad to work with you as an originator to help you offer those products to your consumers in your local markets. Because without bridge, without fix and flip, without new construction, without non-QM, without DSCR, without this whole portfolio of loan types you see on your screen, you're not truly a mortgage loan advisor or an LO CEO to your customer. You're half of that, or you're 3/4 of that. I think to truly be a differentiated originator or business owner this year, you have to offer the full suite, so that if somebody shows up in your lap this year, as opposed to last few years, you've got something to offer everybody. And there are some great lenders out there, not us, others that are in the bridge and fix and flip and new construction, personal loan, and home equity line loan businesses that we can introduce you to. We will be in non-QM and DSCR here in the next month and a half. And obviously we already have all the regular conventional high bal, FHA, VA, and jumbo stuff on the street. And most of your investors would as well, or your lenders would as well. So whole focus of this is look at what you're offering right now. Challenge yourself to find a lender or two that can support these last 4 bullet points that you're probably not in or not in effectively right now. And then let's jump to the next slide. And as you add these products, you need to be thinking about the lenders that you do these loans with, because these are more complex loans, the last 4 especially, than conventional and FHA, VA, and jumbo. But with every lender you work with, whether it's us, UWM, Rocket, HomePoint, Caliber, New Res, whatever they call themselves, whoever you're working with, you got to ask yourself a lot of questions, and you got to pull your contract back out, and you got to go, okay, how consistent are they from a pricing standpoint? Are they here today and gone tomorrow? Now, I'm not going to pick on anybody, but we happen to have 4 or 5 publicly traded competitors now, and they've been publicly traded for over a year now. It's pretty scientific now. If you watch their pricing heading into an earnings call, the pricing gets worse. As they head out of an earnings call, their pricing gets better. As they head into an earnings call, their pricing gets worse. As they head out of an earnings call, their pricing gets better. Do you want consistency from your lenders or not? If that's not important to you and you're okay with them going like this, great, stay with them. But pricing strength and consistency, to me, if I was a broker, owner, originator, LO, CEO, processor, CEO, I'd want at least a couple of lenders that I work with to be really consistently aggressive, right? So I don't have to ride the waves of, gosh, I wasn't a groove with Susie, but now I got to go to Johnny because Susie's not competitive right now because earnings are coming out. You got to ask that pricing strength question and consistency question. Does the lender set you work with have the product depth from the previous slide that we need you to have to be successful this year? What's the financial health of your lender? You're working with somebody that got all your eggs in a basket or two, and they might not be here tomorrow. Ask yourself that. Ask a few questions of those lenders. As much as they do an annual recertification with them, with you rather, that they put you through, do one with them. Hey, how you guys doing? How's volume? How's revenue? How's earnings? Are you guys solid? Are you stable? How's your net worth? It's fair. Ask them the question. Ask us the question. Have you looked at what your EPO and EPD policies are? When you sign that contract, did you really pay attention to what you put yourself on the hook for? Check that out. Pull that contract out. Take a look. Non-solicitation and client rerouting. Are you working with lenders that have the right protections in place to not solicit your book of business in a retention unit or another channel? And equally as importantly, reroute opportunities when payoff triggers hit, credit triggers hit, or MLS listings happen. Are they rerouting those opportunities back to you? That should be important to you. That's getting your past client back to you, and you can put them keep them in your CRM and stay in front of them. What's your lender's cost to produce? This ties back to the number one bullet point. how's your lender, how efficient is your lender? Are they using 20, 30-year-old technology to produce loans? Does the process feel 20 or 30 years old? That means they probably have a terrible cost to produce, and some of them do, and some of them are publicly traded that you can see. That means they can't be as competitive consistently as you need them to be from a pricing standpoint. If they have a high cost to produce, that's not the year that we're in. That's not the industry cycle that we're in. You have to have a razor thin cost to produce as a broker and as a lender to pass through the best offer you can make to the street, to us offering to you, the broker, or you offering to the customer. How's your lender doing from a customer service and mentality standpoint? Do you feel like you're bothering somebody when you call your lender or email your lender? Or do you feel like, hey, what's up? How's your day? Glad to talk to you. What can I help you with? You want that. You want the latter, not the former, right? Check in on that. Check in with your team. Ask them how they're feeling about your lenders. You might be having a lot of eggs in a basket where people are miserable working with that lender and their price volatility is high. And you'll realize you have terrible EPO and EPD policies with them. Like, you got to look at all this stuff. You might be exposing yourself to a lot of things you didn't even realize you're exposing yourself to. Here's one that's going to be a little sore with all of us, but you got to take a look at this. We cannot live in the year 2020 or 2021 at the LPC rates that we've been at. I know we're in different markets, and I know different markets have different loan amounts, but I can assure you this, it's already happened in wholesale. Margins have been cut to the bone where we're bleeding. I've got cuts on my knuckles from how the margins have been drugged from the big competitors we compete with. That's fine. We've got a low cost produce model. We plan on staying and remaining competitive with our model, but I challenge you to do the same thing. I don't think you can expect to reasonably originate anywhere near the volume in 2022 that you did in 2021 if you don't look at your LPC rate. Are you competitive in your local market? Do a survey. You can find out where your brothers and sisters are around you. You certainly know where a retail lender is going to set their margins. You can check their pricing out and just pretend to be a customer and do some online searches. But take a look at your comp plan versus those around you. Are you setting yourself up for success or failure? Do you want to do 5 loans at 2 3/4 or 10 loans at 2 1/4? I know what my math looks like. I do the 10 at 2 1/4 all day. That's more revenue, but you got to look at that. And then, are you okay with your lender's tactics? I'll leave it at that. You know what I mean. Next slide. Miscellaneous review. Then we'll get done and we'll let you guys ask questions if you have any. Number 1, you're a business owner. You're an LO CEO, a processor CEO. Are you looking at vendor contracts you've signed? What do you owe money to? What's your rent? What are your, I talked LO comp rates a minute ago, but I talked LPC rates. Now I'm going to talk LO comp rates. Are you looking at what you're paying your loan officers if you truly are an owner or a manager? You might have to have some tough conversations like, hey, loan officer, would you rather get 150 basis points on 5 loans or 125 basis points on 9 loans? Again, the math works on the latter, not the former. You got to have those conversations. They're not fun. They're not easy, but you got to walk people through. You got to be transparent. You got to have the chutzpah to have the hard conversations, because that's the year that we're in. Have you looked at what your LOS costs you? Have you looked at all your subscriptions? Like, I feel like even as American consumers, and I'm guilty of this just in my personal life, I'll be like up late. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to buy this on Amazon. And then I'm going to, I want to have that come every 3 weeks. Just deliver that to me every 3 weeks, bottles of water, whatever it is. Then I forget it. It's called set it, forget it. Have you bought a bunch of subscriptions at the office? Do you have a bunch of money going out the door that you might have found value in a year or 2 ago, but you just forgot that you were doing it? Go back and look through where all your money goes and cut stuff out if you don't need to be spending stuff on it. If you're not using it, if it's not providing a return for you, get rid of it. And you should be willing to do this. You should be willing to call all your vendors, all your landlords, anybody that you're spending money out to, and you should be willing to negotiate with them. Why? Because it's what you do for a living, right? You're basically chief negotiation officers. That's what you are as originators, processors, underwriters, and owners. You're negotiating all day, every day with consumers on deals, with lenders on deals. Why wouldn't you do that in your business? Why wouldn't you, have the tough conversations and have the confidence to do it? Because you're freaking great at it. I mean, that's what you've built a core competency in, is negotiating. So there you go. There's 2022. We started at the top. We saw the market has literally fallen through the floor. We shouldn't be holding our breath expecting some magic wand to get waved. There is no magic wand. We've got inflation staring us in the face. We've got wars staring us in the face. We've got a lot of things that aren't going to change for quite a while. And I think the one thing we should expect is volatility in rates going up, and a need for all of us to pivot our strategies using some of the information I provided you here today to help you navigate 2022 and be be as successful as you possibly can be. And I don't think you need to be looking at 22 as a worse year for you personally. If you invest in the things that I walked you through today, if you honestly, legitimately invest in half the things and see them through that I walked you through today, you can have a better 22 than you did in 21, but it's going to take more work. That's one thing I can assure you of. And that's the same holds true for me personally. I'm going to have to work harder running this company this year to be the partner you need us to be, and to have the success we want to have with you this year. And so I'm certainly signing up for that extra work. I hope you will too. I'm going to take a deep breath, take a sip of water, and see if there's any questions that have accrued.
There are not any yet, but I have a couple, so I can kind of get started. And as questions come in, so because I was kind of taking some notes, and first of all, a wonderful presentation, Bernie. It was absolutely great information. A lot of back to basics for those of us that have been in the business a number of years, and for the newly licensed originator, great information to know how to get through this next year and possibly next couple of years. But
yeah,
you did talk about a little bit about the ARM market. Where do you think that's going to go as far as rates and what the level that's going to be, sometime in 2022?
I think we probably see ARMs become popular again, Linda, here in the next month and a half. I think by the end of April, ARMs are nowhere near, they've never been as popular as fixed rate. They're never going to replace fixed rate, right? But there will be customers in certain markets or in certain situations that want an ARM because their circumstances are temporary, or they're willing to, what I mean by that is, let's say you have a borrower that comes in. As LOs, we're going to need to be asking questions now that we haven't asked for a while, because the fixed to ARM spread has been so far in favor of fixed rates for 10 years, 7 years, 8 years, that we haven't even let ARMs creep into our brain. But we're starting to see a pretty darn close intersection of where fixed rate and ARMs are tied with each other right now. And we're about at the tipping points the next 45 days if rates keep climbing up on the fixed rate side, where an ARM will have a lower rate and a better premium than its fixed rate cousin. And you're going to have to start looking at your client and saying, hey, what are your plans for this house? Say it's a home buyer, they're buying a new home. Do you plan on being here for 30 years? No, you only plan on being here for 2 or 3 years and you're moving to Texas from Florida? Okay, then why would you ever put you into a 30-year fixed rate mortgage if I can save you 3/8 or half a point per month in interest rate expense? We're crossing over that point, Linda, in the next month and a half, where any little more rate increases that happen through the FOMC or any more inflationary pressure that pushes rates up, it's right at that tipping point. And to illustrate that, if you were an originator right now and you went back 2 months ago and looked at all your wholesale lenders' rate sheets, my guess is they either had blanks or NAs or incredibly terrible pricing on ARMs. Fast forward to today, almost all of us have ARMs on our rate sheet, and they're legitimate ARM pricing now. It's just not quite the time for fixed rate to be taken over by ARMs in certain situations, but it's close. And the illustration is we're rolling ARMs out in the next couple of weeks because we feel like that tipping point is sometime between now and, let's call it the end of April. So great question. We're right there at that precipice. And we know they're not for every customer. Just know this, most customers don't want an ARM. They want a fixed rate because they want the safety and security. They maybe have a story in their back of the head from their parents or themselves back during the great housing recession and economic collapse of 07 through 11, where ARMs are associated with the collapse, right? Payment option ARMs and ARMs in general. Borrowers have a lot of negative thoughts and memories and fantasies about what ARMs really mean. The ARMs of today aren't structured that way, but you're going to be walking into some borrowers who had a negative experience or have that mentality in their head. So just be careful. It's not for every client, and know that you're walking into potentially some argumentative discussions with borrowers based on their previous perception.
Well, I think that's part of our responsibility as an association and lenders, probably because if you think about the individuals that have been licensed the last few years, you really don't know how to explain an ARM. So we'll need a webinar on how the best way to explain an adjustable rate mortgage, and probably call on you for that. So we do have a couple.
There's lots of new tactics, right? There's lots of new things that come with an ARM. The index and the margin and adjustment periods and fixed rate period. It's a whole different math. If you've never originated one before and you're fresh to the industry, it's a whole new ball game. So we can definitely do some work together on that.
So we are getting not a lot of questions, but my goodness, a lot of great comments. Great class, great job, awesome information. lock and shop. What's your take? Worth the extra points in longer locks? That's a question. So
Yeah, I think lock and shop has a place. Like arms have a place. Lock and shop has a place. I just think it comes down to what's the motivation for your client. Are they still working? So lock and shop, let's just define what lock and shop is, because different people have different meanings. Lock and shop is essentially, hey, I don't have an address right now. I am out either in the new construction marketplace looking to build a home, or I've broken ground, or I'm in my home search right now. We all know what that looks like. Your search could be, you could look at 50 homes in a week, offer 50 homes in a week, and get crushed by 100 offers above you. So lock and shop is essentially getting to your wholesale lender, your retail capital markets team, locking without a property address, kind of like a TBD, but locking without a property address generally for an extended period of time, and then essentially having the ability as a consumer to continue to shop around other lenders. But you're still locked with, whoever you locked with originally. It's a nice benefit to have, but sometimes, and in most cases, you'll pay for that. You'll pay upfront cash, or cash that's tied to the transaction, a charge, points, cleaner way to describe. You'll pay a point, 3/4 of a point, half a point, a point and a half, depending on how long you want that lock and shop period to go. So it's really, to me, as a consumer, I would probably only do that, Linda, if I was building a new home, or I knew I was moving for sure, and I never wanted to have my mortgage payment be worse than a number, right? Like, so, hey, I locked with this lender on a lock and shop. I know the worst I can do is, 4%. It's the worst I'm going to have, and my payment against that is $4,000 a month. Now I can comfortably go forth, build my house, or go on my home search, and know that I'm locked for 90, 120 to 180 days. And I get the benefit of, if the market does come down, the Ukraine effect hits, inflation gets tamed, and the market calms down a little bit and rates go below 4, I can shop. But I would have paid money for it. So the savings I would get from the new lower interest rate would have to be a lot more than what I'm going to leave on the table with the lender I paid money to do my lock and shop.
Right.
That makes sense in terms of kind of that dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And then longer locks. Yeah, longer locks are great. I mean, if they're affordable, and your lenders offer 90, 120, 180 day locks, again, why would you do that if you're doing a purchase that closes in a month and a half? That'd be crazy. Or a cash out refi that's closing in 2 weeks. You wouldn't. But longer locks are generally good for people out shopping, or building new homes. And so, yeah, if you don't have to pay for it, and you can take down a 180 day lock or 120 day lock, and the only thing that's happening is pricing is getting worse, but the borrower is not having to pay cash to get that longer lock, by all means, do it.
Yeah, we might see more and more of that for sure.
Yeah.
So tell me, you were talking about budget and advertising. Do you have a particular percentage in mind that we should not exceed from our budget for advertising, or Google ads or anything like that?
Sure. I mean, I can speak to it from previous origination experience on what I did then. That was 15 years ago, so know that. Mm-hmm. But we set about a 5 to 6% ratio here at AWMS. So gross revenue of X, 5 to 6% of that. I'm going to take that. When we built our 2022 budget, we said, hey, what are we forecasting our revenues to be? So you're going to do the same thing. Everybody's going to on this call is going to do the same thing. We're going to forecast what our origination volume looks like. We'll know what our LPC rates are. We'll forecast out what that compensation stream looks like. And then we'll say, I'm going to take 5 to 6% of that. I'm going to set that into a kitty, and that's my marketing budget. You're not going to do it overnight. You can't. Most of us can't afford to take 5 to 6% of an annual number and put that into an account to start funding their marketing activities. So what I would encourage people to do is pick one new strategy that I walked you through today from a marketing and advertising standpoint. Take 5 to 6% of your next month's worth of commissions or earnings or paychecks and set that aside. And then in month 2, then go take that 5 to 6% and invest that in Google ads or retargeting or some lead buys to try that, or whatever, some marketing money you want to put into finding new referral sources and taking people out for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
That's a great way of explaining that, and we can figure that out as loan originators. We need sometimes things in a box, so that's perfect. I like that. That should work. Also, your technology and review plan. You had review and plan. You had 3 items there. You had LOS, CRM, website review. Mm-hmm. If you had to pick one of those, say I can only do one because of cost, budgeting, time, effort, which one would you say is the most important?
I would say CRM. And that just ties to the 100,000 people we surveyed, Linda, through Hamlin.
Right.
We're just like, think about all the effort we all put into originating all the loans we did in 18, 19, 20, 21. However long you've been doing this, you're building up this big, massive database, but without a CRM, you can't be effectively getting back to your customers and staying in front of your customers. It's physically impossible unless you had like Outlook with 100 reminders on it, popping up every day to say, hey, it's been 3 months since you did that loan with Linda Knowlton. Have you remembered her birthday? Like, you have to have a CRM. If you don't have one, there's some great ones. Again, you can come to me offline. We'll make some recommendations to you on some really affordable ones for like $19 a month. You can spend anywhere from 19 to, 30, 40,000 a month that we spend on Salesforce, 50,000 a month on Salesforce, but you don't have to go to the Salesforce route. That's for lenders more often than not. There's some great ones out there that are really affordable. So if you don't have one, get one, tie it to your loan origination system so that data and information is flowing between the two. And these companies should help you with this. It's not like something you have to figure out as a loan originator. Like we're going to put you through a course on a Saturday morning to say, here's how you connect your, they're going to do this for you, right? So I'm using, we'll just say Calyx Point. I'm going to pick HubSpot, and HubSpot knows how to connect to Calyx Point, and Calyx Point knows how to connect to HubSpot. And now all my origination data, all the dates flow into my CRM. And then I'm going to be asking questions on my new loans. Hey, I know when your birthday is because I've got that on the loan application, right? Your date of birth. So I know when your birthday is. So make sure that flows over from Calyx into HubSpot, and then create a little template. And HubSpot's got great tools. And I decided I wouldn't say particular company names, and I'm not saying they're better than the others. I'm just picking on two to illustrate this. But you could say, hey, Mike Brenning's birthday is on August 3rd. So every August 3rd, I want to have an email template that automatically fires an email to Michael and says, happy birthday, Michael. Congratulations on your 53rd birthday. Blah, 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 that kind of stuff. That's all stuff that can be done without any tech savviness on your part by picking the right LOS and the right CRM provider. But I would be all in on CRM, Linda, because we just heard 7.8% of people remember us after 3 months.
I know, that's amazing. That's pretty sad.
Depressing, right? It's like, oh, shit.
Very sad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, God.
We have a question here. Can you, and I'm not sure how we can do this, but can you send us more information about the different services or hubs that we can use to improve the marketing in the way that you recommended?
Absolutely. So let's think about how to do this. How about you just
probably send it to us, and then when we send out the presentation,
Perfect.
We can attach that. How's that?
You got it.
Okay.
I'm just taking a note here, so I'm not focused on this, but I'm just going to take a note here. So
that way, because we will be sending out to everyone, just as a reminder, the PowerPoint and the video here, so we can include that information as well. So I'm going to ask for a last call for questions, but again, we have been receiving so many great compliments on this webinar, so nice to hear. So let me see, I've got one new message here. It was a thank you, so thank you for that. So we'll
thank you for having me. I enjoy these opportunities. I try not to come across too preachy. Hopefully my voice inflection and changes of pace and all that kind of keep people at the edge of their seat. And again, if you just walk away with 1 or 2 things you're willing to try out of this, like, it'd be too much for me to ask you to try all this stuff. It'd be too much.
Right.
I promise.
Right.
Pick 1 or 2.
It is just
out of the whole
1 or
list.
2.
1 or 2 things. We gotta be. Just take this away. Gotta be different in 22. Gotta be different. So pick 2 new things in 2022. How about that? That'll be our little mantra.
That is
2
great.
for 22.
That's a 2 for 22. Yes.
Yep.
That's a great way to end it. And again, we thank you so much for supporting FAMP, for taking your time and giving all this information out to our licensed loan originator. We at FAMP, are here to continue to be the source for information to our licensed loan originators and to help serve and protect our industry. If you are a member of FAMP, we thank you very much. If you are not, please consider becoming a member. We need you, our industry needs you, and we are continuing to be able to have support by companies like AmeriSave Wholesale Corporation. So we will say good afternoon, and again, Michael Brenning, thank you again.
Thank you. Look forward to the next time. Bye, Linda. Bye, Courtney. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.